And today we're going to install Trac-Master. Unlike recess lighting, which is a separate installation for each individual fixture, Trac-Master allows us the amazing flexibility of being able to bring in a live feed point at one point on the track and installing our fixtures wherever we want. Being able to interchange styles and applications, anything from a wall wash to a directional to a pendant. There's lots of different ways that you could install Trac-Master. If you were an apartment dweller or maybe you live in a college dormitory, this simple plug-in live-in end that goes into a receptacle would be a very easy way to do it. Or if perhaps you're doing a basement remodeling job with a tile ceiling, you can bring in a whip from a pre-installed junction box and feed it right into that live end, which snaps into the end of the track. Today we're going to do something just a little bit more typical, and we're going to install a finished cover on a flush ceiling that actually covers the entire electrical box. Before we dive right into that, a couple little rules about Trac-Master and track lighting in general that I'd like to discuss, and that is the issue of polarity. We're all familiar with polarized plugs, where we've got the fat prong and the skinny prong that goes into the receptacle, and we know that that plug is only going to insert in one direction. Similarly, our track lighting fixtures and our live ends and fittings are also only go into the track one way. And the way that we understand that, the way that we designate that, is with a polarity line and arrows. So if you look very carefully at the track, you'll see that there's a debossed line on one side. I call it a groove. And the fittings themselves have arrows. The arrows are always going to point to that debossed line. And so if I unscrew that little screw just a little bit so I can slide it in there, I'm going to push that live end into the end of the track. You'll feel that snap. And I'm going to tighten the screw just to hold it in there. And if you take a closer look, you'll see that that arrow is pointed right at that line. Similarly, when I snap on the fixture into the track, you'll see that there's that little arrow on the fixture. And again, I'm going to take that back and I'm going to snap that in. And you'll see that that arrow is always pointing at that line. That line designates the positive, or the black wire. And we'll see when we wire up the live end how the hot, the neutral, and the ground each have their designated positions. So let's take a closer look at what all is involved in this installation. I'm going to remove that live end and cover plate. Loosen up my screw so I can pull it back out. And first of all, you can see these little copper clips here, and there's a little bit of a spring action on there. That ensures that those contacts are always going to be tight against those wires inside of the track. We call that the track bus. Next, I'm going to take the finished cover plate off from the actual hardware. And what you can see here is that when that slides into the track, I'm making contact with the track bus. My power will come through that little knockout hole. My black wire will go to the gold screw. My white wire will go to the silver screw. And if you're an electrician, you understand black to gold, white to silver. But we also have markings on here that designate neutral and positive. And our positive leg is always going to be the side of the track with that debossed line. And then we'll add the ground screw, and our green wire will wrap around that. In addition to our live end piece, which I just inserted into the end of the track, you'll see a strap, a lock nut, and a nipple in that packaging. And these components are designed to stabilize the installation at the junction box. Here we have an octagonal junction box that's already been pre-wired by an electrician. Naturally, before we start our install, we want to make sure that we go back to our circuit breaker box and cut the power to that circuit before we start putting the track up. So we're ready to install now. I'm going to take our mounting hardware that we use to attach the live end to the box. Here's our strap, our nipple. I'm going to thread that through there. We'll feed those wires right through that nipple, refasten the screws, get one on each side. Next, we'll grab our live end, feed the wires through. You can see it slips right over that nipple. Now, there's a little trick to this, and that is you want to have as little thread coming through as possible. So I'm gonna sort of fasten that together very loosely just to hold it all in place. And typically what I like to do is sort of put a little hook on the end of that wire. So that way when I wrap it around the screw, I get a little bit more contact. Let's start with the easy one first. We'll do the ground. Next will be our neutral, which is our white wire going to our silver screw. And our black wire to our gold screw, which is our positive, designated by our debossed line in the track. Okay, our wires are all installed, and you can see we've pushed what the slack was all the way back up through that nipple up into the junction box. And you want to make sure that you always do that and have a very nice clean installation, so that way our finished cover plate will go on to that junction box and flush up real nice and tight. Now we're ready to actually put the live end onto the end of the track, and we're going to mark our holes for anchoring the track. So I've already backed out that little screw that tightens the live end into the track, so it should slide in pretty easily. And once again, paying close attention that the arrow is actually pointing to the debossed line on the track. I'm going to mark my holes with a pencil. And once again, remove my track from the live end. Grab my trusty drill. And before we do that, let's just take a look at how this installs. We're going to use the toggle bolts to actually mount the track. So the head of the bolt, the finished side of the bolt, is going to be on the viewing side, on the bottom of the track. And we're going to put our toggles on right now, and we're going to spin those on with the wings kind of aiming down into the little threaded space, and thread my screw through there. And for just an ordinary 1/2-inch drywall ceiling, we can actually, have about an additional 1/2 inch at the top of that screw. We'll do it at the other end as well, so that way when we push these up into the ceiling, the wings compress, go up into the holes, pop out, and anchor the track. So we've got our toggle bolts installed through the mounting holes in the track. Now I'm just going to take this 5/8 of an inch size drill bit and begin drilling out the holes. And number 2 hole. So our holes are drilled. I'll set my drill aside. Grab my track with the toggle bolts already installed. Let those kind of hang down there. And once again, I'm going to push it back into the live end. So now I'm going to just push those toggle bolts up into my drilled holes, and I can feel that wing kind of snap. We'll do it again over here. And again, what you can see is that my live end is actually holding that kind of in place. I'm going to pull down on the track as I tighten. And don't tighten one up and then go back. You want to make sure that those wings are kind of catching on the top of that surface. So let's put the cover plate on. First thing that I want to show you is on the back of the cover plate, and a lot of people miss this, there's a little cone here that kind of sticks out. And that little cone tucks under the flange of metal that is on the live end connector. So it just kind of helps this end of the finished plate come up flush to the ceiling, because I'm going to attach it firmly with the screw from this side. So here I am, and I'm going to kind of slide that on, and you can hear that snap. I'll put my finished screw on. And then also attach and tighten that screw that mechanically joins the live end to the track. Now let's talk about the fixtures. They're available in a wide variety of colors, shapes, styles, application, everything from directional to wall wash to a pendant that you might actually hang from your track. This particular series that we're looking at is made to be compatible with LED lamps supplied by others. They're also compatible with their more traditional halogen MR16 counterparts. But today we're going to mount 3 of these. You can see that that cone-shaped lamp holder has actually got a couple of slots there for your fingers to aid in inserting and removing the lamp. So I'm going to push that in, line up the little pins, push it hard, and you can see it's also pretty easy to grab onto when it comes time for me to pull it out. So let's install our fixtures. I've got the 2 copper tabs here. One of them's got the P on it. That's going to insert towards the grooved line, and I'm going to insert those parallel to the track and then rotate slowly so that that arrow points right to the debossed line. You can see that these rotate both horizontally and vertically. Come back and grab the other 2. Doing the same with the second fixture and the third. My assistant is backstage restoring the power to our installation.